Hello, my friends. I'm so excited about dinner tonight. I am trying a recipe that I saw online, a little bit kind of crazy, but I'm really excited about it. I actually saw this on a YouTube channel. They're called the Keto Twins, and I feel like my camera's messed up. Hold on. I feel like it's a little crooked. They're twin sisters that eat a keto lifestyle, and they just try all these wild and crazy things and see if it works out. So this was something that I saw on their YouTube channel. It's called Leek and Mushroom Ravioli. The thing that's crazy about it is that the ravioli is made out of cheese, because obviously dough is not keto or carb friendly. So I'm going to attempt to make this. I've never made this before, and so I hope that you'll stick around and come with me on this journey. My name is Christy with Help for Your Journey, where my goal is to encourage and inspire you in your trim, healthy mama lifestyle. So this recipe is definitely going to be an S. We are going to use cheese. There's going to be some bacon in this. We're going to use some Parmesan cheese. We're going to have some oil. So this is definitely going to be an S dinner. If you don't know what that means, I'm going to link a playlist in the description box that will give you the lowdown of the Trim Healthy Mama eating plan, which is basically separating carbs and fats. So the first thing that I want to do is show you about Leeks, because I haven't used Leeks a whole lot, and I think that they're probably something that most people aren't super familiar with. This is what they look like, and basically it's like a huge fat green onion. And the thing is that there's many layers inside the leek. So I've cut one. Let me show you. There's like all these layers, and these layers are a perfect place for dirt to get trapped. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut right here, and then I'm going to cut this bottom part off. This part right here is the part that we're going to use. We're going to discard this top, and we're going to discard this, like the root end. So I'm going to do that, and I'm also going to remove just this. Well, I'm going to cut this in half long ways. And then I'm going to just remove the very outside layer, only because it's a little slimy, and I think it's just going to be better if I remove the outer layer. So I have 3 leeks here. The recipe says that you need 2.5 cups of leeks. So I'm gonna actually do all 3 of these that I have. They came in a bunch at the store. I couldn't buy, like, I had to get 3. So I'm going to cut these long ways, and then I'm gonna cut them into little half circle pieces. I'm gonna put them in my colander, and then I'm gonna run them under some water, and I'm gonna try to separate all those layers to make sure that I get all of the dirt out of the layers. So I'm going to work on that, and I will be back in a minute with the next step. My friends, I am back. I am making the filling for the ravioli. So I have my leeks in this pan, along with 2 tablespoons of butter. I'm gonna link this recipe in the description box below. So you're supposed to cook the leeks and garlic about 10 minutes until softened. So my leeks are almost done. I don't usually like putting my garlic in right at the beginning, because I feel like it just gets overcooked. So that's why I'm just now adding it in. And you guys, I wing it. So I am gonna make some changes to this recipe based on the ingredients that I have here at home. So I wasn't always like that though. For many, many years, I needed a recipe and I followed that recipe to a T. Now, it's kind of like a little of this and a little of that. The bad thing about that is that if you come up with something amazing, a lot of times you can't duplicate it because you're not following a recipe, but hey. All right, so I think that these are nice and soft. My garlic has been cooking just enough so that it doesn't have that raw garlic, bite to it anymore. So I am going to add in some heavy cream, and we're supposed to let that cook until it's thickened. It's pretty thick to begin with. Heavy cream is like so good. So we are just gonna cook this for a few minutes. And then, so we have a filling that I'm gonna make. I'm gonna set it aside in a bowl. And then I have a sauce that I'm going to make. And then the ravioli themselves, which I think is gonna be, I'm hoping, is gonna be super easy. Which that reminds me, we're going to need to have the oven preheated. So let me see what degrees I need. 350. So I'm gonna start that, getting warmed up. I definitely don't wanna, I have this pan on fairly low and it's still really like, okay, that's, I don't know, maybe that's too low. It's looking, I'm gonna let it go a little bit more because I don't want it to be, I don't want the filling to be really like liquidy because it's the filling for the ravioli, and I want it to be like really kind of, not solid, but not liquidy, you know what I mean? So, okay, another thing is for this filling, the recipe calls for spinach. I don't have spinach, but I do have kale. So I am going to use the kale instead. And I am going to kind of account for that, and I'm gonna put it in a little bit earlier than I would have put the kale in, just so that it can, spinach cooks so fast. Kale cooks fast too, but I just wanna make sure that it's nice and cooked. So I actually think I'm gonna add the kale right now. Double check how much. 2 cups. So I'm just gonna do 2 big handfuls because this cooks down like ridiculous amount. So I'm just gonna like stir this up and get this. Let me just double check here. We're gonna put some salt and pepper, but it doesn't tell you how much. So I'm just going to guess. Okay, so this really thickened up once I put the kale in. I don't think that's a bad thing. I just want to make sure that this kale gets nice and wilted down. So I'm gonna add some salt and pepper, and then I'm gonna put this in a bowl. I'm gonna add some Parmesan cheese, and it calls for fresh parsley and chives. I don't have either one of those. I'm gonna use some dried parsley, and I'm just gonna put in some green onions, which I totally know that that's not the same thing as chives, but I have some green onions in the fridge that need to be used up that are already cut. One little tip that I have, these are already cut up that I had in a baggie, but if you have green onions, when you get them home from the store, put them in a glass with a little bit of water. Just, I put it in my windowsill in my kitchen. And when you cut green onions to use, put that little root end back in the cup and it will regrow. And it will just, eventually it'll get yucky and you'll have to throw it out, but it'll keep regrowing green onions for you to use. And when you want to use them, grab some kitchen shears and use those to cut instead of trying to use a knife. It's way, way, way easier. Okay, so this kale is looking pretty good. It's looking wilted. So I am actually going to add, now again, It didn't say how much salt and pepper, so I'm just guessing. I would say I'm maybe doing about a teaspoon of each. A little too much pepper there, because there is going to be some bacon in this, and that's going to be salty. You know, there's cheese, multiple different kinds of cheeses, so I don't want it to be too salty. Okay, so I am going to take this off the heat, put it in a bowl, add in the Parmesan cheese, the parsley, and the chives, and I will be back in a minute. Maybe, if I can. Okay, my friends, I am back. I am making the sauce at this point. So what I have in this pan, the recipe calls for 4 ounces of diced pancetta. I don't have that, but I had bacon. I had already cooked bacon that I actually found when I was cleaning out my pantry earlier today. Made a whole video about cleaning out my hot mess pantry. I'll link it below if you wanna see how that went. So I am just going to use bacon. I've got oil in here. It called for 2 shallots chopped. I just had a hunk of onion in the fridge, so that's what I used. I am going to cook this. Calls for some garlic powder, a tablespoon. Wait, garlic powder? Okay, so the recipe says garlic powder finely chopped. We're gonna use fresh garlic. My daughter's actually in the kitchen, so I'm gonna have her grab the garlic for me. Thank you. We're gonna do fresh garlic instead, but I'm not gonna add it yet. So, all right, we're gonna add that in a minute. So I messed up a little bit. I was supposed to put the green onions in the sauce, not in the filling. I put it in the filling and now I don't have any left. So it's all gonna be great. It's all gonna taste delicious. You can't go wrong with bacon, onions, and mushrooms, and cheese. So, okay. We are going to let this cook. Oh, it calls for chicken broth. I have chicken broth, but what I had in my fridge, we made a turkey the other day, and so there is some of the turkey drippings that we had left over in the fridge. So I just decided to use that instead of opening up a whole carton of chicken broth. I want to show you. These are going to be our raviolis. So this is Sargento provolone cheese. This is the one that was recommended in the video as the best tasting one for this recipe. So that's what I got. There's 12 slices in here. I'm going to put them in the oven that I set at 350 for only 1 minute. I want the cheese to soften, but I don't want it to melt into a big globby mess. I just want it to soften so that I can work with it. I'm gonna add the filling, and then I'm going to fold it over like a ravioli and seal up the edges. So I am just going to continue to cook this sauce, and then I am going to come back once I have my raviolis put together and tell you how that went, because I don't really know what to expect as far as if that's going to be like hard to do, hard to work with the cheese or whatever. So I will be back and I'll let you know. Okay, I am back with my cheese that I put in the oven for 1 minute. I'm going to take about a tablespoon of my filling and put it inside the cheese. The cheese is a little bit shiny. That was one thing that they said to look for. I'm gonna move this. You fold it over, and then you're gonna kind of push the ends down to seal. I think I have a little bit too much filling in here. I actually don't think that this was quite warm enough. If the cheese starts to get a little too cold and you can't handle it anymore, it just like doesn't want to work, they said just put it back into the oven for another 30 seconds to 1 minute. So I am going to grab, I'm going to leave this one out just to kind of show you. Look at you guys. Look at this. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. So let me put this back in the oven. Is the pan even hot? It's a little bit hot. I'm gonna put it in for about 30 seconds. One thing I can tell you while we're waiting real quick is I'm not using any fresh herbs in this like the recipe calls for. I'm using dried. When you use dried, it's more concentrated, so you don't need as much. So don't just, if it calls for a tablespoon of fresh parsley like this recipe, you wouldn't want to put a tablespoon of dried. That's going to be way too much. You want to go about half the amount. So that is a little tip. All right, let's take these back out and let's see if this is a better, if I can use this. I don't want to go too overboard on this filling. I'm a little scared I'm going to burn myself. Okay, no, I see. So, I mean, I can, yeah, this is working. This is working. Now, I'm keeping my sauce warm right now on the stove. So we're not going to heat these raviolis up. After I get them made, we're gonna put them on our plate and then we're just going to put the sauce on top, because otherwise this cheese is just gonna melt and it's gonna make a big, huge mess. So I'm just basically trying to close these up the best that I can. So I am going to make the rest of these raviolis, and then I will come back and I will show you the finished product. See you in a minute. My friends, I haven't been this excited about a meal in a minute. Look at these. Look at how these turned out. Oh my gosh, they look so good. There's a lot of filling left over, so I will figure out what to do with that. I have some raviolis on my plate. I'm going to put some of the sauce on here so that you can see. Now remember, we're not going to heat these up because this sauce is hot. Look at this. Look at that mushroom and bacon sauce on top of there with those raviolis. Like, oh my goodness. I am so excited to try this. So I just have to try it right now so that I can let you know. So let me get a little bite with the ravioli. You know what? I didn't get a lot of filling in that ravioli bite, so let me get a better bite. All right, I've got filling, and then I've got some mushroom. I mean, cheese, bacon, mushrooms. I mean, what more can you ask for? But this is like messing with my head because it really looks like dough. It really looks like actual ravioli. So, I mean, this can fulfill, like if you're missing, I'm wondering if you could do something to taste like pierogies, which, I mean, you can't do the potatoes, so I'm not really sure. But anyway, my brain is thinking of other ways that I could use these, but this is delicious. I know it was a couple of steps, but it was a fun recipe to try. So if you found value in this video, can you please give it a like? And even better than that, if you could subscribe to my channel, I would really appreciate it. I do put a lot of time and effort into these videos. And so if you could subscribe, that would mean the world to me. My family is chomping at the bit to eat this. They've been smelling it as I've been cooking it. So I'm gonna go and have some dinner, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.